Did you know that professors are allowed to sell you their own textbooks and make a profit off of it? Or maybe you've wondered, how is that legal? It sounds like a conflict of interest. Why should a professor be able to profit from their own students? Today, we're going to dive into why professors can sell their own textbooks, the ethics behind it, and whether it's even legal. The truth is, in most cases, it's completely legal for professors to require students to buy their own books. It comes down to something called academic freedom. Professors at public universities have the right to create their own curriculum, choose their teaching materials, and set the direction for their courses. Universities generally trust professors to make decisions about what's best for their students. So, if a professor thinks the textbook they wrote fits the course better than any other, they're allowed to assign it. Of course, there's a lot of issues that come with that. But here's where things get tricky. Some professors don't assign their books because they believe they're the best fit. They can also financially benefit. When a professor sells a traditionally published textbook, they usually earn royalties, typically 10 to 15% of the book's sales. For popular textbooks, that can add up quickly, but it doesn't stop there. Some professors take this further by self-publishing their own materials, which cuts out the middleman and puts more profit directly in their pocket. The Higher Education Opportunity Act of 2008 includes provisions aimed at transparency in textbook pricing. It requires universities to disclose required textbooks for the courses before registration to give students the option to find cheaper alternatives. However, the law does not prohibit professors from assigning their own books. It just ensures transparency around costs and allows students time to compare prices. Now, this often isn't as smooth as you'd think. Many students get caught up in a class and they're being told that they need these books to pass the course. What's even worse though is oftentimes students report not needing the textbook at all, let alone that they could find the information elsewhere for free or at a cheaper price. Professors often overstate the need for these textbooks and say that it's required when you can get through the course material without actually using it. Now for some real-world examples coming straight from the City University of New York's website, there is an article talking about some of these exact incidents. Here they state, while conflicts are infrequent, they can occur. Here are some real-world CUNY examples of financial conflicts of interest from over the years. Included in the bullet points we can see a number of things, including a professor photocopies notes of their course and sells them directly to students, receiving profits above the cost of photocopying. We can also see another example. A professor in a graduate seminar requires PhD students to purchase several of the professor's expensive textbooks. The textbooks are of minimal relevance to the seminar, and the publisher is related to the professor. Now, what did they do about it? Well, they addressed potential conflicts of interest under the policy, and they made changes. The new policy permits the overwhelming majority of our colleagues to continue their current textbook assignment practices without further review. It merely requires that faculty members cannot profit from their assignment of their own texts in their own classes. Long story short, they're now making sure that professors aren't allowed to profit from this, and any proceeds that are actually made above the costs of creating the books or selling them do have to be put back into the school in the form of a college scholarship fund or student emergency fund. Now, interestingly enough, a number of years ago when I attended the University of Oregon, I actually encountered situations like this when I was a student. One example I can provide to you was when we had to purchase a so-called textbook that was actually just about 50 pages of photocopied pages put together and shrink wrapped. There were holes put through the pages, but it didn't even come binded or with binder rings or anything. It was basically just a stack of papers, and it was sold for over $30. They were also not useful at all, and it was not beneficial to the class to have to do this at all. From aaup.org, there are also some other questionable examples. Faculty at North Dakota State University and the University of North Texas can assign their own works, but are cautioned against retaining profits earned from the sales to their students unless, as the North Dakota policy states, the text has become independently accepted in the field. As you can see, this leaves for a lot of question marks, especially with regards to students being subjected to these types of practices. So, as you can see, it's often left up to the university to set the rules for what's allowed or not. And oftentimes, these rules are left very open-ended so that professors do end up taking advantage of it and selling their own textbooks. Oftentimes just stacks of pages with holes put through, and they're not even bound, but they're still being sold for $20, $30, $40, and sometimes even more. So, why do professors defend this practice? Many professors argue that it's not about the money, it's about control over the course materials. It's because they believe they're the expert on the subject. Using their own book allows them to tailor the material specifically to their class. In some cases, professors claim that they're not profiting much at all and that the money they earn goes back into the program. But here's the ethical dilemma. What if the textbook isn't all that necessary, like some of the examples we've looked at? So, is it legal for professors to sell their own textbooks? Yes. Is it ethical? That's up for debate. At the end of the day, it's a complex issue that lies at the intersection of academic freedom, intellectual property, and ethics. But one thing is for sure, students have the right to question whether the material they're paying for is worth the cost. What do you think? Should professors be allowed to assign their own books, or should there be stricter rules in place to keep things fair, or even laws implemented based on this subject? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more educational videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.